Pursuant to Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, NISCA moves that the rule therein be suspended and an urgency be declared, and that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that Senate File Number 2884 be given its third reading and placed upon its final passage.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. That's my motion. This is the bipartisan pension bill from the Pension Commission. The Senate passed it with a bipartisan vote yesterday, and the only way that we can take it up and send it to the governor during regular session is to suspend the rules, and so I urge member support.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Long.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge our members to support as well.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Third reading. The clerk will report the bill.
Third reading, Senate File Number 2884.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members, and thank you for suspending the rules. This, you know, it's a commission. It's a little unusual pass, so getting it to the body is, even in this year, every year is a little unusual. So this bill reflects the work of the Pension Commission, and like was just mentioned, it was a very bipartisan product that came out, and so I think at the end of the day, I think we can really have a strong vote. But to start off, I'd really like to thank our leaders, Speaker Dameth and Speaker Hortman. They really came together and said to us as a, you know, to our team and the other team, do good work for the workers of Minnesota, for, you know, from the snowplow drivers to the educators and police and fire, and that's what we did. So these leaders came together and they had a bold target, and actually made the people across the street or across the building which look a little bad, which is, I mean, oh darn, but that's the facts. So this bill reflects that, and then in the end, leadership again was able to negotiate a very solid target for us to work with. And also, so again, thank you to Speaker Dameth and to Speaker Hortman, and then it layered down to Chair Torkelson and to Chair Stevenson as well. So thank you for your good work there. So this bill reflects that great work for the state workers and protects the investments, and also does some really good policy reform that was needed. So just kind of at a high level overview in the Minnesota state retirement system and the PRA, there's some COLA adjustments that we're able to do, some amazing work. And I just can't stress enough how much just the work that we're able to do with the pension fund people, really them, it will do amazing things for the workers of the state. And I really want to, I think even if we just stopped there, this bill would be amazing alone. So thank you for the people that are managing the funds, and they're doing a great job. And I think our employees all over the state will see a big improvement in security in these, and that those funds are secure and doing good work. So on to the police and fire area. With the funds, we were able to allocate some investments in that area and greatly improve the work that's going on. I'm just going to kind of go over at a high level, and I'll pass it to Representative Driscoll at some point. And the same with the teachers. We're able to do some incredible work there. And just keep in mind that there's no cost to the school districts with this work, and the fund is helping there also to pay these investments down. On the policy side, we were able to do some, get rid of some unnecessary reporting that was going on. And then there's kind of a problem in the pension area that we discussed at multiple meetings with the probation officers in Minnesota aren't really receiving the pension that really should be at the level that, you know, these are tough jobs. So Representative Wogelman had a bill. I don't see him right now. Maybe he's off doing the higher ed, but he worked hard on this, and we realized that we probably weren't going to get there. And then in came Representative Nadeau, and he did some amazing work. It's really neat to see how the both bipartisan effort, but it's really neat to see how Representative Nadeau can dig in and dive in. And so there's going to be a work group that's going to work on this, and maybe Representative Nadeau can talk about it more, but I think it's amazing. So it'll be a solution to a big problem that's going on with our public safety adjacent employees, you would say. So like 911 operators and probation people, and maybe there'll be more. I know we've had people that are, people that are working forensics maybe, or other groups. Well, we'll figure that out. So that's going to be reported back to us, and we'll have that back for next session. So hats off to Representative Wogelman and Representative Nadeau. Really great work, and the House, I think, really carried the day on that provision. There's another policy change that's needed and really important in the duty disability area in the police and fire space. And maybe you've heard one way or the other on that, but it's something that's needed at this time. And again, both sides of the aisle worked hard on this, and it's I'm really happy at the place we're at. And I am committed. There was a question in Ways and Means. Are you committed to working on this in the future? I mean, we set a marker, but there is a commitment if it needs tweaking in the future that we're open to that and working on this. But hats off to Representative Herr, and she's been working on this for years, and it's really a big thing that's going to be. It's in this bill, and it's needed. It's kind of something, that not all of us know about. I didn't really quite honestly know that this was a problem, but when you get into it, it's a big problem, especially for smaller cities in greater Minnesota and other areas. Let's see. Wow. I had to, I'm getting old, so I had to make big print. So I'm going to thank staff later, but I just want to thank our committee that Representative Driscoll and I had. Representative Nadeau, you did great work, and Representative Steyer, just top notch. Both these guys are really good members of the legislature and impressive to work with. And then my team here, Representative Jaw, thank you, great job, and Josiah Hill over there, and really solid, and Representative Wogelmont as well. So, but I really want to, this is unusual, but I'm new to the pension space. Everybody kind of knew me as legacy guy, but anyways, this has been great, and really what's helped me succeed, I feel, and the whole commission is Representative Driscoll, my partner in this, and my co-chair, or co-lead, or whatever we are. I just, he knows this inside and out. He's kind of a new hire here. He's only been here 14 years, but he's been on pensions every year, but he cares about this place, and he cares about the pensions, and he really did good work. And he took me under his wing and just really helped me learn. There's a lot to learn in this space, and hats off to him. So I think that's it for me. I'd like to yield, I think, or however, pass it on to Representative Driscoll, if I may, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Thank you, Representative Lilly, for the kind words for our team and your comments on my work. It has been great to work with you. You and I have worked together on a lot of committees over the year, and we had to kind of shuffle up the seating arrangement, make sure you and I were next to each other so we could continue to do the good work that you've outlined in this bill. Members, in 2018, we passed what I would consider to be the last major piece of legislation that affected pensions here in the state of Minnesota. And we did that on a bicameral and bipartisan basis. The Pension Commission is made up of both Senate and House members from both major caucuses. And we meet on Tuesday nights. which, by the way, is, from my perspective, is better than meeting at 8 o'clock on Monday mornings like you used to do. And my good friend, Chair Herr, was the Pension Commission Chair. Since I live in greater Minnesota and I would have to drive down the night before, but I was always happy to do it because I wanted to make sure that we were doing the right things for our pensions. We asked folks to tighten their belts in 2018, and we made a promise to our public employees, our police officers, our firefighters, our state patrol, the public workers in schools, our teachers, state employees. When we get our pension funds moving in the right direction and our sufficiencies look good and our percents of fully funding are getting to where we need to be, we will be back to provide you cost of living allocation and adjustments. Ladies and gentlemen, we are one vote in the Minnesota House away from bringing this bill to the governor's desk that does that work that we promised that we would do. Then on a bipartisan basis, and today on a bipartisan basis, and what the Senate did yesterday on a bipartisan basis. Public employees are both Democrats and Republicans and independents. When we walk into that commission, we basically take off our hardware and leave it at the door. We roll up our sleeves and we do what's best for Minnesota. One thing that folks don't seem to quite grasp about this process is if you are in the police and fire, and some teachers don't get Social Security. And in the past number of years, we've had hyperinflation. If you were able to get Social Security and another pension, your Social Security was getting cost of living adjustments that were moving along and helping you to be able to meet those rising costs. In our police, firefighter, and state patrol realm, they were getting 1%. When inflation was 8, 9, 10%. Some of these folks have lost over 20% of their buying power in 3 years. They got a cumulative 3% increase. This bill, although a slight nod of the head and tilt of the hat to these folks, says, we can't give you what inflation was, far from it, but we're moving you back in the right direction with these cost of living adjustments. The other thing that I want to talk about is pensions is extremely wonky with policy things. One of the things I want to mention as well, because we're constantly looking at and making sure that we're doing what we need to do, we're going to have a task force that's going to look at corrections workers and 911 communication operators. They are not law enforcement and firefighters, but they deal side by side with them in some more dangerous positions than other people do in the current classification that they're in. We're going to look to try to help right the system by those folks as well. And I'm sure there's going to be some questions later on, and I may be asked to participate in those questions, but there were a lot of other people who are participating in here and doing good work on this. And so, Madam Speaker, I'm going to stop my comments at this point and let you get to the list of other presenters on the floor today. Thank you, members. Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Cha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is my third year on the Pension Commission, and I'm glad to be a part of this team. I want to thank both co-chairs and my fellow commission members. I want to thank co-chair Representative Leon Lilly and Tim O'Driscoll for their leadership in keeping this House pension team together. Thank you both for that. Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll, for sharing your deep knowledge and care for pensions for the state of Minnesota. That you have done for the last 3 years I've served with you. So thank you for sharing that. In a tied House, in the House of Representatives, the House DFL was allowed a 4-3 advantage on this pension commission, a 4-3 DFL position. I want to thank the leadership in entrusting this commission and our member to put in good faith the ability to come together to put together a pensions bill. So thank you to the leadership for that. I want to thank Representative Steer. The first comment you made when you came to the commission was that you're here to take care of your pensions, right? And that you did. I want to thank you for your representation, for sharing your perspective and experience and your insight and position on duty disability, which made the difference. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very good bill. Please support it. Support the commission. Vote green. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Itasca, Representative Igo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I just want to say some thanks to both sides of the aisle for all the good work that happened on this bill in front of us today. This is a great first step to taking care of pensions in this state for those that are affected by this bill. It's just a really, really good bill. I just wanted to tell a story. There's a close mentor of mine who's a teacher, and when I first announced that I was running for office, him and I got together again, and he made sure to talk to me about this issue and really walked me through on the importance of pension reform and what it means to him as a teacher. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Gundy back home. We're taking a first step on fixing your pension, but also thanks to him for being a mentor in my life, because I think all of us had that teacher in our lives that we gained something from, we learned something from, that made us the people we are today. And I know I wouldn't be standing on this House floor today without his guidance and his education to me over those years, and happy to call him a friend and a mentor. So happy to vote green for this bill today, and I hope the whole chamber can as we support all those folks who are affected by this bill today. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Herr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I rise today because I want to just share a couple of thoughts about this pension bill. And I do agree with Co-Chair Lilly that this is a good pension bill. But with that said, I would be remiss if I didn't point out a very important group that was left out of this bill. St. Paul teachers actually, in essence, got nothing from the teacher COLA increases or what was included in here. It is always disappointing for me that it's usually the smallest groups who have the least voice that are the ones who are left out, and that they were asking for just $1 million. And I want to remind everybody that when St. Paul teachers had a benefit increase last biennium, it was because they paid for it. They were willing to increase their own contribution in order to get the benefit increase. That same offer was made to TRA teachers who said no. They decided they did not want that. And now we've given the entire portion of what was allocated to teachers to just TRA, and we left out St. Paul teachers. In essence, we punished a group of teachers for choosing to pay for the benefits that they wanted to increase, so that the teachers who have been working hard could have a modified rule of 90. It is important for us to remember that it is these St. Paul teachers that when charter schools and private schools do not have the ability to actually provide SPED education, that those kids are receiving those from those public school teachers, from those St. Paul teachers. And that the charter schools, often the way this agreement works is that the St. Paul school district providing services is usually the one that comes out having for the cost to bear the burden of that cost. And I know that the shift of that is very complicated, but they do not get that per pupil aid that comes to them for the services that they are providing for that student. When you are part of a charter school and a private school that does not have a specific sport that a public school has, that public school teacher provides the coaching for that student to be able to compete on that team. And what we are saying to them is that we do not value your contribution. We do not value the extra work that you do. And you were willing to pay for it. But when we got money that we could have given to you all as well, we decided that you couldn't have just $1 million of the $20 million that was going to TRA. And so I want to remind everybody that St. Paul teachers deserve to also have been made whole, that some of that funding should have gone to them so that they could then offset what they have been paying in order to have increased benefits. So I want to leave it there with just that piece of teachers, but I want to let my St. Paul teachers know that, like, we know that you've been left out. I know that you've been left out, and I will make sure that we do not forget that when we go into the next biennium. I do want to also state that I am really proud of this group for doing really important work on the duty disability. You all have a letter on your desk that's signed by all of the partners who came to the table and said that despite the fact that Minnesota has nearly 4 times the rate we see in neighboring states on duty disability, the fixes that we made in the last biennium, we knew that that wasn't going to be enough to try to make sure that our active police officers, our cities, our counties, our states are protected from the cost of duty disability. And that you all came together, all of those on both sides of the aisle who came to work together on this, was able to earn the support of our Minnesota Chiefs of Police, the Minnesota Professional Firefighters, Minnesota Sheriffs, Minnesota Fire Chiefs, the Association of Minnesota Counties, Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, Leagues of Minnesota Cities, and a couple of other ones here that you all can see on this list. But this work was really important, and I'm really thankful, and I hope that we continue to work on this issue, because the funding that we gave last biennium was one-time funding, and we are already a third through that funding. And we do know that the fixes, especially around the healthcare piece of it, will most disproportionately benefit our smaller cities and our rural counties. Because when we do have someone go on duty disability, that cost is borne, the healthcare cost is borne by these counties. And I want to remind everyone that when Nisswa had 2 police officers go on duty disability, they had to raise property taxes double-digit in order to cover the cost of that healthcare. And so it is really important to remember who will disproportionately benefit from the continued fix of the duty disability issue that we are having. And so I want to thank all of the members, especially Representative Steer and Nadeau, for putting policy over politics and for doing right by the constituents of Minnesota. I want to thank all of our commission members who voted for this as well to get it across the finish line. I do ask that despite my feelings about teachers, St. Paul teachers getting left out, this is a good bill, and I do encourage a green vote on this.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Hill.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members. I just wanted to stand up and briefly thank our team. Like Representative Lilly, I'm new to the Pensions Commission, and it was quite an education. I want to also thank our leadership, Representative Lilly, Representative O'Driscoll. Thank you, Leon and Tim, for teaching me the ropes as I entered into that realm. I'm spoiled to be able to serve on the Pensions Commission as well as the Veterans Committee, which feel quite different. It's a different culture. It's a culture of support for one another and teamwork at every turn. Really proud of the work that our team did, but there's some folks that we need to thank. We need to thank the boards that oversee each of these pensions. These are our workers from around the state in Minnesota, make up parts of these boards, and they put their time and their effort into making sure that our funds are healthy and safe. I want to thank the staff, and the staff bring real expertise. They bring a great deal of experience, and they bring devotion and dedication. They stick around because they understand the importance of this and how many lives and how many families these pensions touch. I want to send a thank you to our workers who understand, like the commission does and like the aforementioned groups do, that the pension game is a long game. It's not about spinning the wheel on the Titanic. We have to look down the road. And I'm really proud to be able to stand up and have this format to thank our workers around the state. It's our public workers in large part that make Minnesota the place that we all want to live. It's why we're here. This is a beautiful place. It's a great place to live and to raise a family. I want to close by saying to the workers, thank you for your messages, the countless messages we received, sharing perspective on why this work is so important. So thank you for doing the work of civically engaged citizenship. At the end, I want to thank our leadership. The targets that you provided from the House side made this possible. And Representative Lilly touched on this, but this allowed our work to move forward. In comparison to the other entities at the table, their targets wouldn't have made this possible. So thank you to our leadership for recognizing the importance of our pensions and taking care of our educators, our police officers, and I look forward to continuing the work for all of our state workers. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I can't thank too many more people. I think we've thanked everyone, but I do especially want to thank Leader Damath, Speaker Emeritus Hortman, and anyone else that was involved in setting those targets. I think Representative Hill mentioned it, but the importance of this, last year we had probably one of the bigger single investments, one-time investments of $600 million, which was incredible. But this is the first time that we have $80 million in each biennium moving forward. And this is going to have some drastic impacts, good impacts. I just want to touch on a couple of things. We didn't serve the St. Paul Teachers Retirement Association as well as we could have. We had some tough choices to make, and I thank Representative Herr for bringing that up. I think we're all committed to making sure that we do that. And last year there was a bill that would have allowed the TRA teachers to pay their own increase, and we didn't allow that. We did allow the St. Paul teachers to do it, and we will catch up on that next year. I assure you. One of the big things in the bill as well that's been overlooked, I think it's a big thing, is secure choice. You know, we passed a bill earlier. We passed it in 23, but this year, just earlier this session, we have PCAs. We have personal care attendants that actually work for people with disabilities. And under state law, they are a state employee for bargaining. And one of the things that we added in there this year is that there was going to be a method for them to save for retirement. And in this bill, we made modifications so that that population could use secure choice. And it's a perfect option, I think, moving forward. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the work group for probation officers. That was a bill that came up, and it was an interesting concept. Representative Wolgamott brought that forward along with Senator Kupek, and it was all about creating a new pension for probation officers. And so we worked together on that and came up with a study that we're going to move forward with. It's got membership from all the stakeholders. And most importantly, and I think everyone mentioned this to thank the pension plans. I just want to step back one second. The people that work for our pension plans, PARA, TRA, St. Paul Teachers Authority, MSRS, I mean, these guys are the ones that are really doing the work out there, making sure that our pensions are safe, they're invested well, that we can rely on those. But PARA is a big part of this the probation officer. We expanded the language a little bit to include 911 telecommunications. We also expanded the option to look at other adjacent law enforcement positions, like forensic scientists. There might be some civil employees that would also fit into this group. And the most important thing about this is that it's a speedy timeline, and we're going to have a report back from this work group by January 15th of 2026 so that we can look forward to trying to make sure that we can meet the needs of these individuals as well. Finally, teachers. We spent a lot of time talking about teachers in the pension group last year. I'm happy that we're moving forward with an option for teachers. And it is, I introduced a number of bills, and this is the one that if we had to do something, this was the something we had to do. And it provides an option, and under current law, members, teachers that reach the age of 62 and 30 can retire with a reduced pension. It's currently in state law. And but it's a reduction. I mean, it's basically, you get 90% of your pension. And these are teachers that have worked 30, 35 years, a number of years. And we're getting to this point now where we have Tier 1 teachers that started before July 1st of 1989, and Tier 2 teachers started after that date. And they're working together, and we're getting to the stage right now where the last of the Tier 1 teachers are kind of retiring. But they've worked alongside these Tier 2 teachers all these years. Tier 2 teachers need to work 9 more years before they can receive a full pension, a full unreduced pension. And so we've got work to do moving forward, but what this bill does is it provides a really great option for those teachers that are 60, 61, that need to retire. It reduced their pension discount almost in half. This is a big move. And I want to thank everyone that was involved in doing this. You know, it takes a lot of partners, and it takes a lot of time to make changes to our pensions. They're expensive, and they're fun, And I think that's why I love being on the committee so much, and I was so glad to have Representative Steer and Representative Hill join this year. And because I think it kind of takes a special person to do this because it's so complicated, and a little tweak here and there can have a big impact down the road. And we do have to have that longitudinal thinking when it comes to pensions, recognizing that not only are we respecting the public employees and the service that they provide, but we also are protecting taxpayers, making sure that we're not making decisions that are going to hurt us in the future. So with that, members, I could go on, I guess. I'm not going to, but I hope everyone can vote green for this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member from Scott, Representative Bakeberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Someone said, I can't remember who said it, to be honest, they said policy over politics, and that's really what I think about when I think about this pension bill. And I'm not on the Pension Commission, and I'm one of those Tier 2 educators. So I feel a little bit maybe selfish speaking in support, and I look forward to supporting this bill. But I really wanted to rise and just highlight the bipartisan effort that I watched and heard about that we can continue to model on other areas that are impacting our communities as well. So I was a co-author on all of the pension bills, and there were multiple pension bills out there. Representative Nadeau just unpacked the one that is going to be passing, and really it's a step in the right direction for those teachers who at 60, 61, they need to retire. And for those of us that are in education, we know who those people are. But there's also a fiscal impact that will help support our schools as well, because they're often the ones making the most, and then they're at a place where they're really wanting and needing to retire, and we want to be able to support them. But so we had some different options. We had an option, a 6230, that cost about $240 million, and at the fiscal reality that we're in, that one wasn't on the table. Then we had a Representative Nadeau bill that was a 62 and 30 that cost about $75 million. And then this one, the 60-30 reduced, is about $35 million. But I think what I really want us to think about and talk about are the choices that we make here. Because we had some other options and some creative ways to possibly fund some of those other bills that were offered. The 6230 that Representative Nadeau brought, there was an option to fund that through QComp. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with QComp, that's kind of controversial to talk about. But that's bipartisan controversy. There's bipartisan controversy because there are Republican districts that are QComp districts. There are Democrat districts that are QComp. But that cost, roughly $80 million. But what we need to understand is only about a third of the educators in the state are benefiting from QComp. Whereas if we could have looked at reallocating that $80 million, every educator in the state could have benefited from that $80 million. Representative Myers had a bill around universal meals, and I'm going to go there. $112 million. When that bill was introduced, we thought that it was going to be about an $85 million savings. When the fiscal note came back, it came back at about $112 million. We could have funded Danny Nadeau's 6230 and had money left over to go into our schools, about $40 million to go back. But we were told, can't do that. Universal meals is one of the governor's main priorities, so we can't touch that. That's a sacred cow. So it's all about choices. And then the other night on the floor, we found $77 million on a train to Duluth. Now that's one-time money, I understand that, but it highlights that we could find $77 million to put into UI for hourly workers in our schools, but we couldn't find $75 million for a 6230. So I'm going to vote to support this, but I think we have to be honest when we go back to the teachers. And when I came yesterday, the teacher rally, all 3 tiers were stacked up. People were chanting. I saw the signs. And I asked one of the teachers there, I said, have they talked about how they found $77 million for UI and they can't find $75 million? And she looked at me with this blank stare. So I hope all of us are honest when we go back, because I'm going to be. I'm going to be honest and say, heck yeah, I voted for that bill, but we could have done more. We could have done more if we would have had the political will to do it. So Representative Nadeau, thank you. Thank you for the work you did. I'll be honest, I don't 100% understand all the dynamics of pensions. And I think if we were all honest in here, none of us do. But Representative Nadeau, Representative O'Driscoll, Representative Lilly, they understand it. But let's have the political will to do what is best. Let's not play politics. Let's put in place good policy over politics. I look forward to a green vote, and I look forward to working on this issue in the future and making choices that positively impact not only the teachers, but everyone that serves our community. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Roach.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I was recently asked if my red button is stuck over here. So it's going to be no surprise to you that I'm voting no today. With that being said, there are some very excellent things in this bill. I want to thank all the members that did the work for these pensions. I think Danny did a fantastic job. Has been a very strong advocate for the teachers' pension. And I just have a hard time pitting teachers' pension versus police's pension. And I had a constituent reach out to me, and I would be doing a disservice if I didn't give this message. Because I'm here to serve my constituents. And this comes from a wife from a law enforcement officer. And she says, my husband has been duty disabled since spring of 2021. I understand the updates to the duty disability will not apply to him, but since when did police or fire ever only care about themselves? I care about our friends and family serving now or in the future. My husband has PTSD in the entire time he was policing, but shame, guilt, and the fear of not being able to support our family kept him on the job for far too long. It almost cost him his life. Thankfully, my husband stopped policing, and the benefits he earned through his disability on the job, or injury and sacrifice, have allowed him to do this with less guilt and shame. Limiting the health insurance coverage to 5 years for those who have become disabled on the job is atrocious and inhumane. Everyone loves a hero, but only when they die. If you actually survive your injury, you become a burden to the system. That is disgusting. We have to do better by our police and fire and first responders. Departments are doing a better job with protecting those who serve by proactively providing care and treatment, and Minnesota legislators need to do the same. Punishing our heroes is not the way to save a buck. Thank you. So I know that comes with her perspective. And again, I don't mean to come down on all the work that the members do. I know there's some great work that was done, but this is the voice of one of my constituents, and it had to be heard. So I thank you. I'm a no vote.
I recognize the member from St. Louis, Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This topic of pensions is probably the #1 thing that I've been getting emails from since I started here in 2023. And strengthening core services is one of the #1 things that's been important to many of us in this body. And so I just want to thank Representative Lilly, Representative Driscoll, Representative Nadeau for having the courage and the will to address pensions for the fire, the police, and our educators. This is something that we needed to get done to give respect back in our communities that's well-deserved, and also maintain fiscal solvency for the programs. And I think that there was tremendous work that was done this year that is going to transform core services that have some of the toughest jobs. And so a shout out to all of the task members, the committee members that did the hard work. I've spent time in community like we all have at many meetings talking to people and how this is affecting their life and the issues that they're facing. And there's no doubt we needed pension reform. I'm happy to stand in this body and vote yes today for the many people that we're going to help, for the future people we're helping, and also to help them serve the people they're serving in the classrooms, the probation officers, at the jails, all the different people that are being served, fires. We just had tremendous fires up north. It is amazing to see the amount of work our core services are doing around the state. And this is one amazing bill today. So thank you, members, for your work.
I recognize the member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Tradition and custom is the bill authors and the people who are driving it stand up and speak. And so if I'm up, you're only one speaker away from having that ability to be that last vote that we talked about on this bill and off to the governor's desk for signature. I do want to thank, and I know Representative Lilly will thank his team as well, but I want to thank Justin Brill from the Republican House Caucus. He was our researcher, and Jacob Grundhauser. He has also been a part of the team as our CA. And I also want to call out the great work of Susan Lencheski, Elena Wilson, and Lisa Deislin, who are the part of the nonpartisan staff. And I've had a chance to work with these folks, not so much with Elena, she's newer to the team, but she has been a fabulous addition to the team. And we cannot do it without the help of those folks. There's plenty of work to be done in this world. And we've heard some concerns about provisions in this bill. I can tell you, rest assured, they are not lost on us. This is what we're presented with in 2025. This is how we're working with it on an ever ongoing spectrum of things that we need to continue to do for pensions. Members, I humbly ask for your support on this for the great work that was done for the people of the state of Minnesota. Thank you. Oh, look at that. We've got a Mr. Speaker up there now. Mr. Speaker.
Recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members, for this discussion on this this bill. You know, it was great to hear the speakers because I think they really captured much of the good work that was done by this commission. And I just cannot tell you, I mean, you know, we're in this divided time, but both sides of the aisle really worked well in this space, and all the committee members were top notch. And thank you, Representative O'Driscoll, for, again, I mean that wholeheartedly, by embracing me and helping me along the way. You're a top-notch legislator and really protect this fund. Thank you for thanking our staff with the commission. They are amazing, and it's pretty cool. They actually love these funds and protect them. And I think Danny and Representative Doe and Representative Hill kind of captured that, how important the work is of these the fund people. And they take this job serious, so thank you to them for doing that. And you know, every tweak that you do, you think you're doing just like this little thing. You come up with an idea, and they're like, "Oh no, you know, this, you know, it's billions of dollars of implication, just any little teeny change." So, hats off to them, and I'm glad you two recognized it because it really is important work that they're protecting these funds. Again, thank you to the. I'm glad you thanked your staff. They're very good. And then thank you to mine, Kyle and Colburn, thank you very much for the work that you do for our team. But at the end, it's a very good bill. I think it's something that, you know, that the House leadership said this is a priority, and our team delivered it. And it's something that, that we all can be proud of and really protect these funds and take care of the state workers and also take care of Minnesota. So hopefully you can look at this bill favorably and give us a green vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 133 yeas and 1 nay, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.